Muy buenos días, bienvenidos a este espacio de capacitación online que estamos transmitiendo en vivo desde la Casa Editora Sudamericana para todos los profesores de inglés de nivel medio, secundario o que trabajan con estudiantes de 12, 13 y 14 años. Es un gusto saludarles, me voy a presentar, mi nombre es Larisa Treyer y los voy a estar acompañando con la conducción en este espacio, pero por supuesto tenemos a invitadas muy especiales que van a estar el día de hoy. Así que ya van a estar comenzando y van a aparecer ahí en la pantalla para que ustedes las puedan conocer. Quizás algunos de los docentes nos han acompañado en otras capacitaciones de inglés y pueden conocer sobre todo a la profesora Silvina Enrico, que ya ha compartido algunos vivos con nosotros. Pero bueno, este espacio entonces es especial y lo hemos preparado para ustedes, docentes de inglés, donde las autoras van a estar compartiendo diferente información sobre las novedades que tenemos en la serie de libros Knowledge, ¿sí? Aquí ustedes los pueden ver, yo tengo algunos, tengo aquí el 1, por ejemplo, que quizás ya lo conocen, tenemos aquí el 2 en color celeste y el amarillo que es el 3, ¿sí? Lo nuevo que estamos presentando. Voy a leer algunos saluditos o comentarios que van llegando a nuestro chat de YouTube. A ver, está conectada la profesora Cintia, también está conectada la profesora Marilú, también allí Silvina estuvo dejando su saludito y su bienvenida. Así que los invitamos a que escriban allí en el chat desde qué colegio nos están acompañando, desde qué país, porque esta capacitación está abierta a todos los docentes de Sudamérica a los cuales llegan los libros de la Casa Editora Sudamericana. Así que queremos saber desde dónde están. También, por supuesto, el chat es el espacio para que ustedes hagan preguntas, consultas y, por qué no, también compartir su experiencia como docentes, como profesores, y así entonces nosotros podemos ir conociendo un poquito más también sobre su tarea allí en las aulas, en las salas con sus estudiantes. Bueno, ahora sí, voy a presentar entonces a las autoras, a las profesoras invitadas en esta mañana. Voy a comenzar entonces a compartir un poco sobre la historia, el currículum de Cecilia Bonavetti. Ella es profesora de inglés, es graduada en la Universidad Adventista del Plata, Argentina. Les cuento que también ella tiene un máster en enseñanza del inglés como lengua extranjera en la Universidad de Jaén en España. Y su carrera se desarrolló principalmente en el ámbito universitario, enseñando diferentes materias en la carrera del profesorado y el traductorado de inglés en la Universidad Adventista del Plata en Argentina. Actualmente trabaja en un instituto de idiomas en la ciudad de Balcarce, dando cursos de inglés general y también como docente en la Universidad KS de Mar del Plata en la carrera allí traductor público. Está casada con Raúl Álvarez, nos cuenta que tiene 2 hijos, Matías y Melissa, que ambos estudian en el Instituto Adventista Balcarce, así que mandamos un saludito allí a todos los miembros de Balcarce. Y compartimos entonces ahora un poco sobre Silvina, quién es, para que ustedes también la conozcan. Ella es profesora universitaria de inglés, especialista en docencia universitaria, cuenta con un diploma y certificación internacional para profesores de inglés de negocios de la Cámara de Londres. También Silvina brinda servicios a la Casa Editora como autora de libros, asesora pedagógica para los proyectos editoriales de inglés. Y hace más de 20 años ha trabajado, ¿no?, como profesora en los diferentes niveles educativos, tanto a nivel primario, medio como universitario y posgrado. Y les cuento que actualmente es docente en el Instituto Adventista Mendoza, es docente también de la carrera y el profesorado de inglés en la Universidad Aconcagua de Mendoza y está casada con Pablo, también tiene 2 hijos, Martín y Camila. Y Silvina nos cuenta que siente extremado placer por la docencia y la calidad educativa. Así que con esta presentación entonces ahora ustedes pueden conocer un poco más a las 2 capacitadoras que nos van a acompañar en este día. Así que bienvenidas, ¿cómo están? Un gusto saludarlas.
Hola, Laris.
Ahí a ver si te escuchamos. Ceci, ¿cómo estás? Buen día.
Buen día, gracias por la invitación. Es un gusto estar acá compartiendo este momento con tantos colegas, así que bueno, estamos más que contentas.
Qué bueno, buen día,
Buenos
Silvina.
días. Buenos días, un placer saludarlas. Larisa, Ceci, muchas gracias por acompañarnos y una cordial bienvenida a todos los que nos están mirando del otro lado de la pantalla, que que son en realidad nuestro gran apoyo, nuestros ojos en las aulas, nuestros usuarios de los materiales, a que sí, desde ya, muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos y por el interés de querer perfeccionarse constantemente para brindar un mejor servicio en la educación adventista.
Así es. Bueno, les cuento cómo va a transcurrir la capacitación en esta mañana. Vamos a tener dos partes. Ahora estamos ya en la primera, donde bueno, se va a desarrollar las primeras partes del tema. Después vamos a tener una pausa de unos 5 o 6 minutos para tomar un poco de agua, relajarnos un poquito. Después seguimos con la segunda mitad del tema. Y al final vamos a dejar un espacio especial para preguntas, respuestas, consultas, así que los invitamos que a lo largo de la capacitación vayan dejando allí sus consultas, que al final entonces vamos a compartir las dudas que tengan y las autoras van a estar respondiendo todo. Voy a aprovechar y a leer algunos saluditos más. A ver, tenemos conectados desde el Colegio de Chillán, Colegio Adventista de Chillán. También está conectada la profesora Melina de Capitán Bermúdez. También, a ver, tenemos a Daniela desde Misiones Argentina, de Comandante Andresito. A ver, ¿desde qué otros lugares? A ver, Daniela que está conectada de Chaco. Hay profesores conectados desde Rosario, desde Bolivia también y Perú, el Colegio Adventista Puno. Así que ahí ya vemos que desde diferentes latitudes de Sudamérica se están conectando los profes. Si les parece, los invito ahora en reverencia, voy a hacer una oración, así ya damos inicio a esta capacitación. Querido Padre que estás en el cielo, muchas gracias por este día, esta mañana, que a través de la tecnología, Señor, podemos conectarnos con profesores de diferentes partes de Sudamérica. Agradecerte por este espacio y sobre todo, Señor, pedirte tu presencia y bendición junto a Cecilia y a Silvina, que van a estar dando los temas, y también con todos los profesores que están conectados. Gracias por todo, en el nombre de Jesús. Amén. Bueno, vamos a comenzar con Silvina y voy a dejar dos preguntas para ella, para que al comienzo entonces nos pueda compartir un poquito de esta información. Primero, sabemos que la serie hasta el momento tiene 3 libros, por lo tanto varios autores han participado, han colaborado, han puesto todos sus conocimientos en la creación de estos libros, así que queremos conocer quiénes son todas las autoras que han trabajado en la serie Knowledge. Y después, Silvina, contar un poco cómo surge, cómo se crea la idea de tener estos libros de inglés, especialmente para el nivel medio secundario o para 12, 13 y 14 años. Así que con estas dos preguntas ya te dejo para que comiences con tu parte.
Bueno, Larisa, muchísimas gracias por la oportunidad de mencionar a las autoras que han colaborado con la serie. Hasta ahora, exactamente como dijo Larisa, se encuentra el nivel 1, 2 y 3. Quisiera dar un agradecimiento especial a las 4 autoras que han ido colaborando a lo largo de las series. La profesora Andrea Egas, desde Ecuador, Amparo Ernst desde Argentina, Paula Barra desde Chile y Cecilia Bonavetti desde Argentina. Ellas han estado trabajando en diferentes niveles. Desde ya, muchísimas gracias por la dedicación y el compromiso y por compartir todo el conocimiento, la metodología que consideren más apropiada dentro de nuestros parámetros, principios de la filosofía adventista. ¿Cómo surgen los libros de inglés? Yo solamente voy a decir 2 pequeños detalles. Los libros en general, no solamente los de inglés, no surgen por una idea de casa editora, sino por una necesidad que se presenta en el CELDA. De esto los invito especialmente a que participen de la capacitación que estará a cargo de la magíster Claudia Brunelli en el día de mañana a las 10 horas. Ella les va a dar una explicación bien detenida. Pero especialmente en el caso de los libros de inglés nos preocupa nuestra integración de fe y enseñanza. Sabemos que hay filosofías que atentan a los principios bíblicos, sabemos que nuestros jóvenes tienen distintas temáticas, preocupaciones en las que debemos atender. Entonces, dado a esta interés y preocupación de los docentes de nuestra red adventista que se fueron presentando, surge la necesidad de crear esta serie especialmente dedicada a los alumnos en la adolescencia, para poder atender sus intereses, para poderles dar una respuesta en el marco de los principios bíblicos y también que correspondan a las necesidades lingüísticas y parámetros internacionales para estar a la altura de cualquier libro que en estos momentos se están utilizando en el mercado. Entonces, sin más preámbulos, pasamos directamente a la presentación de la serie. Si me permiten compartir pantalla. Wow. As some of you have already known the series, because some of you have worked and used Knowledge 1 and Knowledge 2, I will be very brief, briefly with the presentation so that Cecilia will have the opportunity to provide knowledge as regard the methodology of the book. So let's see how the series and each book is organized. Wow. As I mentioned, it's a series. It's a 6-level course. It has been especially designed for the students between 12 to 17 years old, and it's contextualized within faith, teaching, and learning. And again, I will emphasize on this because this is a plus that we have. When using our books, we know that there are people in charge of taking a special care of everything that is published according to the principles of the Bible. Wow, as I mentioned in the brief introduction at the very beginning, the book has been written taking into account the proposal is included in the Common European Framework. What is that? That we know that there are certain international standards proposed and suggested in the Common European Framework. So when we talk about A1, A2, everybody around the world knows what we are talking about and the level that is supposed to be achieved at that point. So in order to achieve each level and taking into account the amount of hours that most of our schools have for the second language, we are going to cover level A1 with knowledge 1 and 2, A2 with knowledge 3 and 4, and B1 and even B1 plus with knowledge 5 and knowledge 6. Let's move on. What type of activities had been designed? Well, the activities had been designed to develop mental, physical, spiritual, and social powers. Let's remember that we have another concept of education. We see the student as a whole. And I will ask you not just to read the teacher's book, but also to study the teacher's book, because there are plenty of activities suggested there to develop these different skills. Also to develop thinking and cognitive skills, and the 4 language skills. As you know, this is a language book. The activities had been designed to cater for different learning styles and multiple intelligences. Even though that most of us are totally familiar with the theory developed by Gardner, about multiple intelligences, don't forget that in the book of education, Ellen White mentioned that all of us have different gifts to be developed. So this theory has been presented many, many, many years ago by Ellen White. What are you going to find when using the book? You will see that there are online resources. Whenever you see this icon, is because you will find these resources online in on our web page. The book is divided into 8 topic-based chapters. There are different appendices: general knowledge, cultural knowledge, projects, grammar reference, vocabulary builder, and integrated workbook. I will explain them later on. These are the characters of the book. So throughout the characters, the values and the language is presented. So students can feel identified with the different situations that the characters have to face daily. Let's see a little bit about the chapter organization. So you will see language knowledge. Here students can practice the vocabulary, the new structures in engaging and challenging activities in which they will have the opportunity to develop language and thinking skills. And I will underline thinking skills. How to do it? Everything is clearly stated in the teacher's book. Then you will find a special page developed to language skills, to develop language skills. The students will have the opportunity to practice and develop language skills such as listening, speaking, reading, and or writing. Even though these skills are being developed during the whole chapter, this special page is devoted for language skills development. There is another section which is called profound knowledge, and here is specifically designed to deal with values and topics from the Bible. Students will have the opportunity to learn more about our Lord, His love, as well as to develop social and Christian values, so important nowadays. The language is also presented in context, and there are different activities to check understanding of the story or of the text, and to cater for students' interests and quests. As you can see, if you have had the opportunity to work with our books, integration of faith and teaching is done horizontally because the values are presented and developed during the whole chapter, and vertically, especially in this section. The last section, which is the last page of each chapter, is the revision. Here, students can review, recycle, and integrate the target language that has been introduced in the previous lesson. There is a self-assessment to check progress. This is very important. Sometimes we skip this part, but students need to be aware of what they can do and what they can't do and what they need to improve. Okay, let's see the book in itself. This is the overview of the chapter. In each, the beginning of a chapter, you will see the chapter number and the topic, because all of our chapters are topic based. And you will see, I don't know if you can follow, the verbs from the Bible, which include or summarizes the topic developed during the chapter. The context is significant. There are different activities to check understanding, and whenever you see this icon is because we emphasize in a verse from the Bible. Well, this is just one page to show you some of the activities. Activities to foster the full language skills. So you can see here that there is a listening activity. There are activities for grammar awareness. So you can see this icon. This is a kind of pre-summary for a student to see and remember the most significant grammar points to take into account. Here you will see this icon to foster communication. So there are different activities which foster a variety of grouping strategies because we want to develop social powers too. While this is related to the development of language skills, listening, reading, speaking, and writing. This is the special page or section in each chapter to develop those language skills. And this is the profound knowledge, as I mentioned before. For example, the topic here is being happy, but from the point of view of what really makes people happy, in which context. There are comprehension activities. There is a reinforcement of the value. The last page of each chapter is devoted to the review. Here you have different activities, especially designed to assess in a way or self-assess the target language presented during the previous lesson. And again, you will see this icon. Maybe you can see it here, is because there is another resource that is a worksheet suggested that you will find on the web page. Let's see a little bit about the appendix. You will have a general knowledge, cultural knowledge, projects. General knowledge is especially devoted and related to the methodology of CLIL, content language integrative learning. So the English teacher has the opportunity to borrow knowledge from other subjects, help students name and acquire specific vocabulary related to those core subjects, and at the same time help students to reinforce what they have learned in other subjects of their curriculum. Cultural knowledge, we are teaching a language, and language is part of a culture. One of the values that we aimed to develop in our students is cultural awareness and empathy, not only towards other culture, but also towards their own. So here you will find significant topics related to different cultures, sometimes related to food. There are different topics. The authors have been really creative in this area. And then there are significant activities in which a student will have the opportunity to seek and search information about their own culture. Of course, we are going to work with projects. This is part of our criteria. In this case, the project is related to recycling, how to be green. So students have to work in groups in most of the cases, and there are significant outcomes in which will help students to become aware of different aspects of our reality. The book also includes a grammar reference. As you can see, this is a simple explanation of the grammar topics introduced during each chapter. There are tables, infograph here so that students just can see very easy to understand, not difficult explanation. It has been everything designed according to their level of understanding. The vocabulary builder, in some cases you will find a kind of picture dictionary, others with examples or collocations. And then you will see the workbook. The workbook is really interesting. It's a full color workbook. I have already explained this, so I will move on. And let's see about our digital content. Please visit our website. There are a lot of resources there. And here I will want to emphasize the password. I'm sure that the girls there are going to write the password in the chat. But in order to have access to our teacher's book and some of the resources provided, the password is Haces en el aula. Haces, capital letters. Okay, let's see what we can find here. First of all, the teacher's book. Please study the teacher's book. There are plenty of activities. Each lesson is fully developed with the objectives, the students' objectives, the target language, as well as warming up activities. Each activity is explained, as well as roundup activities, extra activities, language games. There are plenty of things to see and to develop. The audio tracks, here you can download all the audio tracks, or you can use it online. And this is brand new, it's the PPT. So most of us have to work with virtual education, so we can use the PPT slides in order to present or record our own classes, explanations, so that students feel identified with the book and also with the teacher explanation that is extremely related to the book they are using. What's more? Vocabulary games. So this is self-checked, right? It's automatically checked. Students have the opportunity to practice and play with games. Those are language games because we want our students to learn, acquire, and play with the vocabulary that has been introduced in the chapters. You have grammar sheets to practice grammar and play with grammar, and communication sheets. Students have to complete the blanks, and then they will have the opportunity to check by listening to the tracks provided in the audio section. These are PDF that you will have in the website. This can be downloaded and printed. Worksheets, these worksheets are suggested at the end of each chapter. These are extra activities. You can use them as mock tests before the students are being assessed. And the test, here is where you need the password, because you can ask your students to download the worksheets, but please don't ask your students to download the test. This is just for teachers' use. Okay, that's all about the book. Thank you very much. And now I will leave the rest of the time to Cecilia. Welcome to Cecilia.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. All right, so we are ready to begin. I would like to welcome everybody on the other side to the second part of the program. This is where we are going to share personal experiences that we have seen in the classrooms. What I have prepared for you today is a recollection of my experiences, what books have said about what happens in a classroom in terms of students' autonomy. So we are going to work a little bit from our point of view as teachers and what we can do in the class. And we are going to see how students feel when we plan things for them. All right, so without further ado, I would like to start sharing my screen so that we can get introduced to the topic. Okay, this is where you see the full screen, hopefully. Let's see. All right. Let me tell you something about this workshop. I would like to mention something in terms of its structure. When you hear the word workshop, you probably think of this idea of teachers working hands-on the activities, role-playing students and what they would do. Well, this is a different kind of workshop in this new virtual era, okay? But one of the things that we will do is try to interact through the chat and a couple of polls that I have made. Unfortunately, I cannot see your reactions. I cannot see if you fall asleep or doze off, though I have my resources to check that you are there. But I cannot see much of that. So if you have any questions or comments, we will leave that for the end and through the chat. All right. So title of the workshop is very broad. As you can see, it says Workshop on Learner Autonomy. Doesn't tell you much, right? Still, I'm going to narrow it down in a few minutes, but before I do, I would like you to tell me a little bit about yourselves in terms of teaching and your experience. And that is what we are going to do next. I would like you to tell me, to answer a very specific question that I have posed for you. Please go to menti.com, yes, or you can scan the QR code there. And when you go to that page, you're going to see a code. I'm going to show it in the screen in a minute, but if you type it, you will see it. And we are going to answer a very particular question about our role as teachers. Let me leave this for a minute. I will show you the code in the screen too, okay? I can see the delay. Okay, some people are already there. They are already answering. The question is, which skill do you find the hardest to teach? Linguistic skills, speaking, reading, writing. So far, one person has answered, and this person said writing. Writing is very difficult to teach. It's involved writing too, all right. Writing, okay. This is the same question that I asked in a form that some of you may have answered before joining this presentation. The idea was for me to have a sense of the audience, to see what happens to you guys in the classroom. I will leave a few more moments for you to start sharing your answers. So far, everybody says writing is hard. I agree. I have taught students to write, to deal with different types of texts, and usually they don't like to write. They say, no, why do I need to write an email? I always text my friends, for example. We need to find ways to encourage them to do that. So far, writing is the winner. I don't know
Cecilia,
yes?
Can you listen to me? Can you repeat? The address of Menti, because I couldn't scan the code.
It's there in the screen. Can you see it right up in the screen, it says menti.com, and you have the code there.
Thank you.
Probably people, si por ahí alguno en el chat la quiere escribir, menti.com. Yes, well, some other answers are coming: listening, speaking, writing. I will leave the poll open for another few seconds, and then we're going to see the same question, but from the point of view of students. Yes, this is us. This is our teaching experience, what we find difficult. And then we're going to move to what happens to the people who have to listen to us and to receive our planning. Okay, well, so far, writing has been taking the lead. It's very different from the results I got in the forum. Yes, in the forum, 80% of you answered that speaking was the hardest. All right, so we have a sense of possibilities. Reading, yes, apparently is the easiest to teach. All right, each of them still have challenges. Let's see what happens with the next step of our presentation, which is going to be developed by what happens to students. I don't know if you can see it this big. It's a delay, but I'm going to show you now. Sorry, this is live ball number 2. Okay, you go again to menti.com, or you can scan the QR code, yes, and you are going to put yourselves in the shoes of students. Which skill do you think is the hardest for them to master? Yes, when you evaluate their work in the classroom, what do they struggle with the most? All right, menti.com, you can scan the code, or I will show you the code in a minute from the website. Okay, it's there. New question. Again, it's to your knowledge. Imagine you are a student. Try to go back in time when you started learning English. Yes, what was the most difficult thing for you to do? The hardest skill for students to master. All right, let's see the results there. Let's see if people are logging in. You probably hear students complain. Oh, this is too difficult. No, I cannot do this. I won't even try. Have you heard things like that? It's quite common. Yes, so we're going to see the reflection of your classes and the reflection of your students in that. I don't see any answers just yet, but let's focus a little, or let's wait for the delay if there's any. Let me tell you that based on the results I got from the forum, from the form in the Google form that I gave you, again, 80% of you said that according to what you believed, speaking was the hardest ability to master. I don't see the results right now. It's probably taking time. Some people are answering, it's not working. They are saying in the chat. Never mind. It was for me to have a sense of the couldn't access with the code. If you couldn't access with the QR code, try this one here on top of the screen. If not, don't worry, we will move on. Let me give you the results. I mentioned a minute before, 80% of you who answered the form said speaking is the hardest. And because of that, I will consider those results as the base for my presentation, yes? Because now I'm going to give you the full title of this presentation, all right? It's just not learner autonomy, but learning, developing learning autonomy through speaking. I have been reading quite a lot about what happens to teachers when they need to plan their classes and decide what amount of time to give to each skill so that we have what we understand as a balanced class. And I found out that researchers, linguists, and teachers doing teacher action have come to the same conclusion. Speaking is, for teachers, the hardest skill to teach, and for students, the hardest to master. So this workshop is going to be basically a perspective on how we can cope with that from our role as teachers, and more specifically and more importantly, a role for our students. Okay, so let me share with you a quote from David Noonan. He wrote a lot about methodology, English teaching methodology, and he focuses on the importance of speaking, saying that to most people, mastering the art of speaking is the single most important aspect of learning a second or foreign language. Success is measured in terms of the ability to carry out a conversation in a language. Sounds fantastic. We know the importance of speaking, but now we read research on what students say, and basically the summary is the classroom or the English class does not prepare me for real life conversation, from real life situations. Have you heard that before? Students saying, yes, I can answer the test, but then when I want to speak to someone, I go mute. Yes. So the idea is, let's help our students not be mute. Yes, let's help them be autonomous. All right. So this is not what we want our students to feel. They can understand things, get the gist of listening. They can read because they go at their own pace. They can use dictionaries or something. They can write, and then when it comes to speaking, they freeze. Yes. So this workshop has been planned for us to help our students not to freeze, not to sink, if we use the image of the meme. Okay. So I have another question for you, and I would like you to answer them, for you to answer them in the chat. Yes. I want you to think of the reasons why speaking is not taught in the classroom, or at least not fully taught. Yes. Sometimes when we put things in and balance, sometimes we dedicate, and I'm talking generally, I'm not saying that each of you is doing such and such, but in general terms, when we are in the class and we see what time it is, and you have to decide if they are going to speak or they are going to finish the text, the passage they had, possibly we go with a passage. All right, so I'm going to give you like 30 seconds. It's going to be very fast, but why is it that speaking, in your opinion, is not taught in the classroom? I'm going to use my phone and try to read you. Yes. The idea is, let's see if we teachers are all experiencing the same thing, or is it just me that came up with the topic of the workshop for today and it's just me? I'm not seeing answers, or I'm not seeing responses plus that high. Yes. But well, let me go through this, especially considering the time it is. Some of the reasons why speaking is not fully developed in a classroom. I'm not saying that teachers, that we don't know what to do in a class, or that we do things wrongly. The thing is that sometimes the context in which we are lead us to not fully developing speaking. Situation number one, students will not speak. Have you ever experienced that? You go into the class, you want to make them speak, and they go mute, or they use Spanish, but they will not use English. Yes, I'm sure that you have experienced this sometime or another. And let me tell you what is behind that and ways to overcome this struggle, this obstacle. First case is cultural issues. I know places where, for example, student participation is not encouraged. The culture does not encourage students participating. It's the role of the teacher who speaks, who transmits knowledge. And when another teacher comes and expects them to participate, to speak, they just don't know how to do it. It could be related to culture. And it's also a connection of who is the center of the classroom. Is it the teacher or is it the students? Sometimes we like to take the leading role in the class, and we do all the speaking. Yes, we do all the explanation, we do everything, and we don't leave room for our students to develop, yes, and to practice. So that students will not speak is not entirely upon them. Yes, so ways in which we can evaluate if this is the case is having our own classroom rules. Yes, if they are not used to speaking because the teacher is supposed to do it, well, create a rule that everybody is supposed to participate. Everybody is supposed to give their opinions, or expected to give their opinions. But let's evaluate how they have been trained, because speaking is training, basically. This is even more common. Students use their L1, their first language or mother tongue. Yes, we struggle with this every class. Problems or reasons, basically, why students use, in this case, probably Spanish. Activities, sometimes we target activities at the wrong level. Yes, if they are too easy, what happens? They do it like that, they do it really fast, and they start chatting with the classmates. Yes, so that is one of the reasons they speak English. We did not plan the activity at the wrong level. On the contrary, what happens if the activity is too difficult, if it's too hard? They will not have the means to carry them out. So the only way to get to the outcome that we teachers planned on them is to negotiate ideas with their classmates in Spanish. So be careful with the target, yes, the level that we are adjusting to the class, because it might be leading to a wrong result. Timing is another issue that we need to consider, and this is sometimes overlooked. Again, sometimes we give our students a lot of time for a short activity. Yes, we give a lot of time to an activity that they probably can do in a few minutes. What are they going to do with the rest of the time? Yes, if the activity, you gave them 10 minutes and they finished in 5, what are they going to do with that? Yes, or the opposite may happen. You give them 2 minutes to carry out something that is bigger than them, that is more difficult. They will not have the means. So make sure that you walk around as they talk, to evaluate, to see if they are almost ready, if they need more time, ask them. Yes, help them adjust that so that when they are given the chance to speak, they are prepared. Yes, class becomes too noisy. Sometimes we see that when students get to speak, yes, we see this murmur that may increase too much. And sometimes we say, well, a noisy class equals an out of control class. That is not the case. Yes, what can we expect? What can be better for us as teachers than having our students speak in English, engaged in the activities we have proposed? All right, so do not worry about the class being noisy if what they are doing is using the language. Yes, make sure, of course, that you control, that there is discipline, that they are doing the task. Yes, but do not worry about the class being noisy. That's probably what we want. Okay, when you have big classes, yes, you have 40 students in a class, you probably say, how can I manage teaching English and having them to speak pair work or group work when I have 40 students sitting one next to the other? Well, exploit group work. Yes, when you have students group in 4 or 5s, you can walk around the classroom, see what they are doing, offer your help. Yes, but exploit that. Sometimes we are afraid of letting them work on their own, but it's a great resource we have. Okay. And now let's in order to round up the theory, yes, let's see the reasons why we must teach speaking. When I say teach speaking, is we plan the speaking. It's not something that spontaneously happened in the class because they wanted to talk about a given topic. Speaking, as with all the other skills, needs to be planned. All right. Speaking is at the core of human communication. You are going to read the quote in a handout that you're going to receive at the end. We're not going to take a lot of time with this, but basically, why do we have language, spoken language? Because we want to speak. Yes, imagine your day. How long does it go by before you talk to someone? Yes, we greet people, we make promises, we get involved in a lot of speech acts. All right, speaking is basic. So if we do that in our daily lives all the time, why not doing it in the foreign English class? All right, we need to prepare our students for that. Being able to speak in the second language increases the students' motivation and confidence. I don't know if you have experienced this in a class. I'm pretty sure you have. You tell your students, or one student in particular, to say something, and they say, no, yo no puedo, no sé, no, a mí nunca me sale. And then when you start motivating them and giving them resources for them to speak, yes, I don't know if you have heard them later saying, I could do it. I could tell my classmate about my weekend at my grandma's. I don't know. Yes, but this idea of, oh, I could speak English. I could put 2 or 3 words in a sentence that made sense. It's a process. But we need to give them the context to the students so that they can do that. How? How can we do it? First of all, classroom language, begin even from the early stages. Yes, beginners, they can learn language in chunks, the formulaic phrases. They don't need to really understand how to form a question to know the question, may I go out? Can you lend me a pencil? Yes, teach them chunks, teach them useful language that they will use throughout the class so that they are prepared to articulate, to hear themselves speak English, to hear classmates. Yes, it doesn't matter if they don't, again, understand the form. They need to have the language at hand. Yes, they need to practice it. I have, for example, returned school supplies to their owners because the question for them had not been addressed in English. Ay, ¿me prestas la goma? Person was willing to help, and I said, no, go back. You can ask that in English. Oh, yes, I know. Yes. Make sure the language, classroom language is available to them. Yes. And be strict about its use. Yes. Because if you allow Spanish and English, once you have taught the language, yes, they will resort to Spanish every single time. And we don't want that. Again, teach them basic language, formulaic language. Yes. Basic expressions to express agreement or disagreement. Yes, from the early levels. Don't wait until they are intermediate. Don't say, well, when they get to A2 level, I can teach them how to ask for permission because they will see the models. No, forget about that. Teach them as formulaic language. Third reason, and possibly the most important reason, especially in the context of our books and our publishing house, is we have, as Christians, we have a role, we have a mission that is to tell others, yes, about our beliefs, about Christ's love, yes. And English is what gives us the possibility to speak to more people. So probably if a student having the right words for the right person in the right moment, even if it's everything is going to be okay. Yes, we don't know the effect it can have. Silvina mentioned that we have a special section that deals with language in connection with the Bible, with values. But in any of the pages of the book in the series, we see that values are there, and students are begin to acquire that knowledge. Yes, I have left a quote from Ellen White, Christian writer Ellen White. It says, our duty is to live in the atmosphere of Christ's love. Yes, words of love, tenderness, and charity sanctify our influence over others. Yes, so our students need to feel that they can say a few words to someone in need, even if it is in a foreign language. Okay. So before we finish this first section, before we go to the break, yes, let me just give you an idea of what's coming in the second part. This is the part where we are going to see everything that I've mentioned, the boring part, yes, all the theory into practice. But we are moving to what I have introduced as learner autonomy. Yes, and we're going to see that it is a 3-step or a 3-stage process. Yes, in which we begin with awareness. Yes, the concept of awareness is you didn't know something existed until someone pointed out at you. Yes, and we teachers need to do that. Our students don't know a lot of things in English. Yes, don't know anything in particular about the target language, and we need to direct their attention to that. Yes, that is the first stage. Then we need to help them believe that they can use that. Yes, the concept of appropriation. This is no longer what the teacher knows. This is no longer what the teacher gave him, but this is something that I can use by myself. I could give it a try. Yes, so the second stage is appropriation. Yes, and then we get to the last part, which is gaining autonomy. We are going to see in the second segment what it means to be, for a learner to be autonomous, what it implies in his speaking, but not only in conversation, but in all aspects of his communication, being that written, oral, yes, the idea of making their own decisions, yes, and moving forward, advancing without us in the center, without the teachers there in the picture anymore. Yes, so we go from the idea of getting to notice something to helping our students get that to their own language baggage, and then to use that beyond the classroom, which is our ultimate goal. So this is the end of the first part. We are going to have a 5-minute break, I'm sorry. Yes, after which we are going to do the more practical part. No sé si lo presento en español, pero bueno, vamos entonces a un recreo de 5 minutos.
En un minuto, imagínate un sistema de enseñanza moderno, innovador, original, completo y online. Imagínate un ambiente que ya conectó a más de 200.000 alumnos, casi 12.000 profesores, 10.000 grupos clase y 350 escuelas. Imagínate un área para 250.000 exámenes, más de 1 millón de actividades y 2 millones de clases. Imagínate un portal con 150.000 accesos por hora, 3 millones y medio de accesos por día y 1.000 millones de accesos hasta ahora. Es cierto, es demasiada información y casi no alcanza el tiempo para contar todo. Ahora tu colegio, los alumnos y sus profesores son parte de esta revolución educativa con la mayor plataforma de enseñanza disponible, a cualquier hora y en cualquier lugar. Redefinimos la educación.
Okay, it's time to continue. 5 minutes fly by really fast, like all breaks. Okay, so we are going to get down to business with the more practical part. Yes, I was reading during the break some of your comments. They reflect a little bit this idea of, yes, speaking is one of the hardest. There were a few other responses, but they were connected also with the idea of timing. Yes, timing is definitely one of our difficulties when we plan classes. Sometimes we have 40 minutes and the class is over and we didn't get to the part of ideal speaking autonomy parts. But we are going to try to develop that throughout this second part. Okay, let me organize my note for a minute. Yes, so we are going to continue with this idea of the 3-stage process in helping our students become autonomous, helping our students use the language by themselves and not because we are there to help them and to pave the way for them. All right, so we are going to briefly discuss the concept of awareness because as we are going to see when we plan our classes in different forms, different methodologies even, we all help our students become aware of the language. Yes, and we all work mostly with the second stage. Yeah, so I'm going to try to dedicate more time to the third stage, which is the one we sometimes don't have time to do, or the one we don't know how to do it specifically. The concept of awareness then is we help our students pay attention. Yes, let me clarify this with an image. Imagine that you are driving in a street. You are looking at the context, you are looking at the traffic as it goes, you are paying attention to the big picture. All right. At that point, you don't know what cars are around you in terms of model, year of make, color. You don't care about that. You want to see the whole thing. You are driving. Out of a sudden, the car in front of you abruptly brakes. Now you pay attention. Yes. But what do you pay attention to? The whole thing or the red truck that braked in front of you? Yes, your attention goes from the big picture when you were paying attention, pay attention to the noticing. Now you say, this is the car that made me worry. Yes, but now you noticed something different, out of the ordinary. Yes, that is the idea of noticing. We imagine that we want to give our students an activity where they will listen to characters speaking. Yes, and they will listen to everything. But then we need to narrow their attention to something more specific, which is going to be the language feature that we want to teach. Continue with the idea of the driving. You see the red truck, yes, and you evaluate what is going on. Then you realize that it was, I don't know, a dog crossing the street, and then you say, well, everything is safe. What happened there? You understood the situation. All right, so the same happens in a class with every single language feature that we want to teach. Yes, we have the big picture for our students. That is easy. They pay attention. We introduce the activity. We do the warm-up activities. These are things we always do. But then there comes a point when we need to help them notice. They will not do it by themselves. Yes, this is the part that is similar to what other methodologies mentioned as the presentation stage. Yes, the only difference basically is that in the presentation stage, the teacher did everything, explained, modeled, showed examples, and the role of the student was very much passive. Yes, in this case, with the idea of paying attention and to notice, we give the student the possibility to discover things. Yes, we're going to see it in a minute. And then, of course, the part of understanding. Couple of things we can use. Yes, resources. Audio scripts. You know that all textbooks, English textbooks, course books will have the audio scripts of all the listening activities, the listenings you have in the books. We do that. You have it in the online resource pack. And sometimes we use that for ourselves, but we usually don't share the scripts with our students, which we should. Yes, we're going to focus today on scripted audio scripts, but you know that authentic are also very valuable. Yes, you have to be more selective with that, but they can be coming well really handy. Audio scripts, why should we use them? Same as with live listening. Live listening is you telling a story, not just the recording. You telling an anecdote, you doing the speaking part. It's very good. It has many advantages because there is going to be more interactivity. You can see if they are following you or not. You can adjust the language, and you can prepare your own script so that they later compare it. Then we're going to see the notice the gap activities. Yes, remember this awareness stage is the pre-production stage. Students will not be using language. Students will be receiving language. Okay, so let's see some examples. This is from Unit Knowledge 3, Unit 6. It's about fun outings. It's where students are going to learn the future, but they have learned vocabulary about activities that they can do at the weekends to make an excursion, to go sightseeing and things like that. So there comes a point where they're going to be introduced to the use of the future, the use of the be going to. Yes, you have an activity there that says listen to the dialogue and circle the correct option. Yes, I'm sure that before you ask your students to do that activity, you would activate their background knowledge. You would probably ask students, well, what do you like doing during the weekend? Do you have any plans for the weekend? And you would elicit vocabulary. Yes, in that way they start thinking about the topic. Oh, probably we're going to talk about the weekend or something that we do. So they start putting their minds in context. All right, I'm going to move to the next screen, but this is just for you to have an idea that the activities that we are going to develop are based on a listening activity. Our focus is speaking, but remember, we are not in the production stage just yet. So a basic procedure for awareness, I will try to go really fast with this, but you activate knowledge, you elicit vocabulary, you elicit what students already know. Yes? Then you do the listening itself, they listen to the dialogue, make sure that you anticipate to the students what they are going to listen to. You say, okay, we're going to listen to Beth and Joe. They are going to talk about their plans for the weekend so that they know what to expect. And then, of course, you have the listen and check for details, the activities from the course book. So far, you don't move away from the book. But then this is the part 4, when it says listen and read and drilling. This would be the ideal moment for you to give it after they have finished with the activity, that you have checked the right answers, if they have understood everything correctly and everything. This is the part where you can bring the audio script. Yes, and you have them listen and read. The idea with this is that the connection between the spelling and the pronunciation, yes, is attached. It's very, very helpful for them to later produce. Yes, but also because when they have the script, they will be able to notice. Remember the part of, this is the specific part. Yes, it doesn't matter how many times you play a script for your students. It can be 1,000 times. There will be features of the language that they will not be able to get with the spoken part. You need them to have it written. They have to analyze it. So from the script, you can say, you can ask them to identify all those instances where the characters talked about their plans for the weekend. Yes, and then you could do some drilling, asking them to read those parts. But make sure that when you ask them, for example, to read the examples they have found, that they read just that part. Because if you have them read the whole dialogue, what is there to notice? Yes, make sure that you focus specifically on the target language. Then you can move on resolving doubts. And then, if I'm going to show you again, then you can, after they have talked about their plans, after they have seen examples, after they have identified the language features by themselves, that is where your explanation for the grammar comes. Yes, after you have seen that, probably they notice, oh, there is an is here, is going to, but there's an are here. yes? And they will probably come to their own conclusions. So you probably, the only thing you need to do is guide them, saying, yes, you're correct. Is because you have he, she, and it, and everything, all right? I am pretty sure that if I had had the time and the resources to ask you what you would have done with such an activity, I'm sure you would have said similar things. Yes, so that's why I will move on to other parts. But remember that for awareness, we need to help our students focus on something very specific. Yes, if not, it's going to be missed in the rest of the so many things they don't understand. And then with practice, with or by looking at the model, they will be able to understand, oh, I can use this structure to talk about my plans for the weekend. Okay. So remember that I said, well, I cannot see your cameras. I cannot see if you are there, but I have my resources to see if you're paying attention. Yes. So I have a question here, and for you to go back and remember the theory. What is the first stage in the process towards autonomy? You can write that in the chat beginning now. Yes, I would like to see if you remember the terminology. It's going to be very important for you, especially at the end of this talk. All right, you're going to try to see what is it that that you can do with this theory, not only for your students but also for yourselves. First stage in the process towards autonomy, yes, is awareness. We need to begin with that. The key components: help our students pay attention, introducing the topic, introducing the activities. Help them notice the specific activity, the specific language feature that we want, and help them understand. Pre-production stage. Okay, so now we can go to the appropriation. This is the part where we need to help our students grab that knowledge and internalize it, yes, and add it to their language knowledge, to the language competence. Okay, in this case, I have made a list of activities that you can do, yes, for this part. Take a look at the concept, the key concept. It's practiced control. I am sure that you have heard of a similar term that is controlled practice. It's not a play on words, it's two different things, but let me clarify it in a minute. When I was a student, I was taught the methodology of the PPP process. Remember, when you practice, when you present the topic, when you help your students practice, and then they produced. In that practice, students were given activities where basically there was no room for them to make mistakes. Everything was so controlled that basically it was a little bit more than drilling phase. Yes. The difference with practice control is that we give our students the possibility to practice in a broader sense. There is a chance that they will make mistakes. The good thing is that you will be near to guide them. Yes. And talking about mistakes, it's very important that you create the concept and you help our students understand that making mistakes is fine. Making mistakes is what makes them grow. Yes. Help them understand that they should not be afraid of speaking just because they may say something wrong. That is another reason why students don't speak. What if I make a mistake? What if I don't say the right word? I don't pronounce it in the same or in the correct form. Let's demystify that. Making mistakes is fine as long as you go ahead and do something. All right. So drilling is one of the things that is going to help us practice. You know that drilling is not, or helps more with fluency than with accuracy. It was believed that drills were only, the sole purpose of drilling was for students to get accuracy. Now we understand that it's not really that, but drilling helps us to get the tongue around. It's like that thing that you cannot do. Yes, the different movements of the mouth. Yes, we need to give them that. Yes, it's like, I don't know if you have ever tried going to the gym, to these cardio classes where they have all this choreography. First class, they are going fast and you try to imitate and your body will not follow. Why not? Because the movements have not been internalized. Same thing happens. We want our students to speak, but we have not given the time for their muscles, the mouth, the articulatory system to get used to the new movements. All right, so drilling can be really good for that. Yes, you can say, okay, I'm going to go to the beach next weekend. What are you going to do? I'm going to go to visit grandma. What are you? Yes, they practice the chunk, they add something different. Yes, but it's perfect for that. Mingling activities, they are great. They help our students interact in more meaningful communicative ways. Typical mingling activity is find someone who. Yes, if possible, have them walk around the class. Yes, find someone who is going to wash the dad's car next week, and find someone who. Again, they are given many instances where they practice. Yes, they will receive responses from different people, so their interaction will be different. Some classmates will give them wrong answers, so they will not know how to do it. They will probably negotiate, meaning they will help each other. The social component here is very powerful, yes, in terms of developing appropriation. Writing tasks. Yes, we are talking about speaking, but sometimes one of the hindrances of speaking is that our students don't have enough time to process the phonology, the grammar, the vocabulary, the content. It's way too much. So it's good pre-practice control to, for example, tell the students, okay, we're going to, or you are going to talk to your classmate about your plans for the weekend. Yes, but you're going to write it or in a form of a chat. Yes, so all the abilities they need for speaking will be there without the pressure of spontaneity, which they will acquire later. Yes, but writing tasks are great. By the way, let me remind you that all I'm saying with more examples and details is in the handout. Yes, due to the time it is, I'm going through the basics, yes, and examples, but again, you will see a lot more in the written material. Another very useful way to help our students make language their own is, of course, with the use of dialogues. We're going to, in a minute, I'm going to show you different ways in which dialogues can move from the more teacher-centered in terms of what the teacher wants the students to do, to something more focused on what the students want to say. It's in the next slide. I'm going to show it to you in a minute. And of course, information gap activities are part of this appropriation stage. Yes, we need our students to be able to negotiate meaning. Yes, sometimes, let me rephrase myself, really frequently, our classes are mixed ability. Yes, we see students who have gone to an academy for years. We have the student who has never heard any word in English. We have people who have lived in a foreign country, all sharing the same class. All right. Of course, this is not the topic of today's workshop, but you can take advantage of that. Yes, because when students can compare their own language, yes, to that of a more experienced speaker, they can fill in. Yes, at least they can notice that there's something they are missing, and what is it that they need to fill it with. So we're going to see again one or two examples in a minute. This is from the same unit. I'm not interested in you taking a look at everything. This is for you to see what's coming. This is almost at the end of the unit of fun outings. They have to create a mind map. Yes, it says a fun outing with friends, and they have to think of possibilities of places where, how they can get there, means of transportation, when, what activities they are going to do, and they discuss and they come up to consensus. Then they have a second activity where they plan the question. They are given cues, and they have to, again, take the time to write them, to think them. Yes, they have only 4 questions there. Yes, only 4, but they will have to use a lot more in their conversation. So this is the part where they internalize the language. Okay, and the lesson ends with the students completing a paragraph describing, based on everything they have in the word web and based on the questions they have answered, they complete a summary in writing of what they are going to do. All right. With that, we can move to the idea of the speaking part. I have mentioned drilling. I have mentioned the paper conversations. Let me focus on the speaking part now. It's a speaking 432. And you're wondering, what is that? It's the name of one of the activities in which we give our students enough opportunities for practice and where we remove the help. Remember that appropriation means from what the teacher has to say to what I have to say. So the teacher has to be erased little by little, or the model has to disappear, or the help, the cues that we give them. So for example, the activity 432 is as follows. You tell your students that they are going to, probably you can do the activities in groups. You tell them that they are going to retell the plans for the weekend and that they have 4 minutes to do it. Yes, so you time them and they can really take the time to think, yes, what they are going to say, how they are going to say it. Remember, they have made the word web, they have completed an exercise where they made the questions, they have made a summary, but now they have to put it into words. And this is where the practiced control comes. Yes, it's not, there are many options for them to make mistakes when they retell it. Yes, and you will be there to help. 4 minutes. When the 4 minutes are up, you say, okay, you are going to retell it again, but now you have 3 minutes. And then you do it a third time, but now you have 2. With more advanced students, you can make it up to 1 minute. Yes, and the idea is with the rehearsal comes speed, comes accuracy. Yes, after probably a feedback stage. All right. So this is where students begin to feel, I can do it. I can really do this. But you cannot expect them to come to that speaking stage if they have not done the previous stages before, if they have not paid attention to the be going to, if they have not practiced it or understood it and practiced it. Okay. So we are going to move to another think section in which I ask you again what we have seen so far as a way of starting summarizing. What are the two first stages in the process towards autonomy? We mentioned the first one. I don't know. I will probably see if you can answer that in the chat if you remember. The first one is the idea of being aware, yes, of something. And then the second gives me the idea of I take from the teacher something and make it my own. Yes, I try to see yes, Sandra says awareness. Perfect. It's taking some time. They told me that the delay is like 20 seconds. And for me, it's like eternity, I must confess. But yes, I think you're getting to the right answers. Awareness and appropriation. My next question is, well, now, do you remember what are the key concepts, or what is the key concept in appropriation? What is it that we need our students to do? Let's see if, yes, awareness, the answers are coming. Sandra has all the answers correct. So Sandra has been paying attention, great students. Thank you. And yes, the them or something like that. Yes, it's you have the right answers. And the key component. What is the key component? What is it that we need to give our students? Yes, sometime throughout the class for them to do. Yes, I see the other responses to the previous question. All right. This idea of practiced control. Give them time for them to speak. Permit error, permit mistakes, and work from there. Okay. One thing that I did not mention at the beginning is that we need to emphasize, if needed, every class, yes, that the only way students are going to speak is by them speaking. Speaking is not learned any other way. So you need to create a friendly environment, yes, where there is respect, where there is understanding. Yes, because remember that teenagers are very self-conscious. They don't want their attention directed to them. Yes, they will do whatever it takes for someone else to answer the question, for someone else to do the speaking, for someone else to answer the teacher. So you need to work on that. We need to work on that as teachers, yes, to help them feel confident, yes, in speaking. Practice control. Thank you for the answers. Let's continue with, or let's dedicate the last part of the workshop to autonomy, which is our goal. Remember that I said earlier, I'm sure that we understand these concepts, probably not with the names, not with the labels, it doesn't matter, but we always try to do the awareness or the presentation process and the practice. But sometimes, yes, we don't get to this last part. And this is what our students need. This is what our students identify as, I don't get enough practice for the real world. Why not? Because we have not given them the opportunity to speak or to say something for themselves. So we're going to dedicate the rest of the time we have to work on this, all right? And this is just the beginning. This is possibly the stepping stone for another workshop, who knows? Conditions that foster autonomy. Activities planned for productivity. Students need to have something to say. We cannot give them the content, yes? Remember all the previous stages, yes? Let's consider the example that we have seen of the future would they be going to and the plans. They have to produce something. It has to be their own. There has to be a purpose. And sometimes we take things for granted with our students. We say, okay, talk about your weekend. And they will probably not know, because there's so much that you can say that they will not know how to narrow it down. So give them a clear outcome. If they are going to work in groups, for example, you can tell them, okay, plan and decide what you would like to do as a group of friends next Sunday afternoon. Yes, so that is, they will be targeting at speaking something specifically, not just let's talk about the weekend. So give them a purpose. Interaction is crucial. Everything I'm presenting comes from a social cultural perspective. Yes, where interaction is the basis for learning. Yes, as we talk with another person, as we interact, as we see that we don't understand and ask for clarification, that is where learning really takes place. Give them challenge. If the activity is too easy, this is for all of us, when we encounter something that is too easy, we don't feel really motivated. So give them something that is a little bit above what they can perform. Safety is very important. I have already mentioned it. Make sure that they know that whatever they do in front of others will not be taken as a joke. They will be respected. If not, yes, that is going to be a problem. Authenticity, yes. Let them talk about their own. Yes, let them give or bring the world outside the classroom to the classroom. Let them talk about their needs, their desires, their wishes. Yes, forget about what the course book presents as the ultimate goal in terms of the activity or the content. You can adjust, yes, because you are the only person who knows your students. Yes, consider authors. We authors have an idea, but then your own reality will make you make certain adjustments, which are perfect, because you are taking whatever you see fit from the material to your own reality. So we have how much time do we have? Yes, we have plenty of time. Let's see activities where we can help our students gain autonomy. Remember, the autonomy section, the autonomy stage is for students to forget that you are there, in a sense, and use language independently. Presentations are great. Yes. How many times have we asked our students to present on their findings? Yes, to work in groups, to work on a given topic, and then to present their findings or the results to the class. That is very useful, and presentations give students the possibility, which is very connected to real life, the possibility of speaking in front of an audience. That is not an easy thing to do, not even for people who are talking in front of a camera. It needs to be practiced. So give them the time to practice. They will have to speak in front of the class. Yes, real life situation. And they will have to speak for an extended turn. Yes, it's not dialogue that goes back and forth. So that is real life practice. Show and tell is one activity that I thought of. I don't have the slide for the screen capture of the book, but there was another unit where students learned the vocabulary to describe people, yes, in terms of appearance and then in terms of personality. And we worked, I mean, the book gives them a lot of activities to work with that. So finally, when you get to this stage, you can tell your students, for example, to bring to class the photograph of family member, a picture of someone they admire, whoever they want to talk about, and ask them to show the picture and to tell the audience or the classmates about this person. Yes, the good thing about this is that after the presentation is over, you can allow the classmates to ask questions. Yes, so there will be this interaction. For example, okay, why did you choose your mom? Why do you admire whatever celebrity that they brought? Yes, so there will be interaction. So the audience will not be passive. Yes, you can possibly tell them in advance that there will be a part for questions. You can ask your classmates about this person. Yes, show and tell. It's personal. Yes, it's meaningful for them. They have had the time to practice and to rehearse. And of course, there is room for error. They will make mistakes. They will certainly do, which is fine. Remember that we are not, I mean, our focus is not accuracy and perfection. The idea is let them hear themselves speak and let them see that they can accomplish something. Depending on the class and depending on their mood and a lot of other factors. But I have, for example, taped my students and I have given them or sent them the video footage. And I said, okay, now when the presentation is over, you are going to assess yourself. You are going to see yourself, which is not nice. Have you ever seen yourself in a video or heard yourself in a recording? They will not like it at first, but then they can see them, they can assess themselves, and they get to learn a lot about that. I remember students who said, I didn't know how many times I used the filler and he noticed that, and he said, I will try to avoid it. I said, it's natural, do not. But they started noticing things. Yes. Anecdote and stories are probably one of the best ways we can, or the best resources we have for students to speak, because anecdotes are personal, so they don't have to think about the content of being creative, of come with a witty ending. Yeah, so the content is there. Yeah, so they will have to focus on the language. But again, if you have given them time to practice before, telling an anecdote should not be much of a scary thing. Activity that can give it a twist. Insert the word. Imagine that you have assigned the theme of the activity or the story or the anecdote, but then you can ask the classmates or you as a teacher, and you say, okay, I'm going to show you words as you move on your anecdote or your retelling, and you will have to include that word in your anecdote, which means they will have to, there is an instance of spontaneity there. Yes, for example, they are telling about what they did last weekend, and then you show the word watermelon. They will have to use it. Yes, so they will have to deal with real life situations, talking to strangers, interacting, thinking right on the spot. Okay. Again, another activity where they will have to do or make their own decisions. The soap opera, that is a really interesting way of working with role plays. We usually, when we think of role playing, we usually take an example from the course book and then tell them to transform it. And they have to think a lot about the content and the story and then the language, and it can be quite a burden. So probably making them role play a famous soap opera or part of a scene of a movie or something that they all know will release the stress of having to think of the content and really working with the language. Yes, role plays, remember, is students playing the role of someone else. You can also have your students do simulations, which is it's themselves thinking what they would do in a hypothetical situation. But in any case, when you ask them, or when you have or you plan activities for role playing, which are great, yes, and they can be fun. Some students can, for example, make the video. Instead of doing it in class, they can make the video and, I don't know, wear some costumes and practice many times and edit the video. But the idea is, let's not waste the students' time thinking about the idea, the theme. Let's give them time for them to work on the language. Okay, soap opera can be really fun. The last one, discussions and debates. There's not much we can say, or there's nothing new about discussions and debates. Yes, because we know the theory, we know how it works. I would like to highlight the fact that sometimes students are very much afraid of discussions and debates because they know what they want to say. They have studied or they know the words because they have rehearsed them, because they have seen it throughout the book. They have worked with activities that deal with the same theme, but then they don't know how to connect ideas. So make sure that you simply tell them or teach them the phrases to agree, to disagree. That is what all debates are for. Sometimes they say, yes, I wanted to say that I liked her idea, that I agreed, but I didn't know how to do it. Yes, I understood what my classmates said, but I could not express how I felt. Or the student expressed it in Spanish. Ay, sí, la verdad que está re bueno lo que dijiste. Yes, and if you remember what we said at the beginning, the typical classroom language that students will need, regardless of their level, should be taught. If you have the possibility of having them having the language displayed in little posters in the classroom, even better. So when a student comes and says, "Ay, teacher, ¿qué significa esto?" You direct them to the poster and say, and they will say, "Okay, what is the meaning of?" And they will be using language. Do not allow possibilities for them to use Spanish when you have taught them the English alternatives. Okay. Pyramid debate was the example of having students being in pairs. You assign a theme, you assign a topic, and you say, okay, you need to reach consensus as a pair. When they reach consensus, you pair them up with another pair. So now it's 4 students having to reach consensus again. When the 4 have reached consensus, they might change their minds in the process, but the idea is that they speak. We don't care much about what consensus they reach, but how they do it or how they get there. And again, you start extending the groups until you have the class to come to an agreement on a given topic. All right, but the idea is you give your students the possibility to speak in a little group where they might feel more secure. Yes, and as they gain confidence, they extend the activity to speaking with others. All right. I was in the presentation, I left on purpose this idea of what we need to remember when we plan tasks. Yes, and I would like to highlight that again before I begin with the rounding up. Make sure that your students produce something. Don't give them everything, but be there to assist them. They will need your help, of course. They will probably say, okay, we don't know how to say this. Teacher, can you help us? Yes, but the rest is on their own. There has to be a purpose. Make sure that the outcome, what you want them to do at the end, is clear. Don't tell them, speak about the weather when the task should be write a weather report for tomorrow. Okay? Give them a purpose, give them an outcome. Interaction is part and parcel part and parcel of what we want them to do: challenge, safety, and authenticity. So as a way of rounding up, I would like to pose this question to you, because we have seen that the 3-stage process is for students. Students need to be aware of a language feature, then they had to move to making language or making the topic their own by practicing. And then we have to, they have to or should reach the part of autonomy. Yes. By the way, I did not mention this, but it's very important that we understand that autonomy is not something that we should relate it with a level, because we probably say, well, they will be autonomous when they are intermediate or when they are advanced, when they work on the B2 book. No, autonomy is not connected with a level. It's connected with the task or with the context. They can be autonomous in talking about the future and their plans. Yes, and they cannot, or they may not be autonomous in doing something different. But when you plan, try to give them a stage for autonomy for every week, if possible, or for every unit, or for every term, but try to include that in your planning. So how can this process be applied to your teacher autonomy? And basically going through the same process, I have helped you, hopefully, become aware of this stage. Yes, you noticed that speaking practice comes, yes, in a progressed manner. All right. After that, yes, you probably, when I was presenting activities, you were probably thinking, I could do this in my classroom. Or how could I do this in my classroom? I have a lot of students. So you were trying to make the theory I gave you your own. You were trying to add that to all the knowledge that you already have about teaching. Yes. So from now on, I expect you to work and reach the autonomy part, where you will go to your classes and you will apply this to your own teaching environments, where you will say, okay, this is me, this is my class, these are my students. And I'm going to adjust the activities from the course book, the things I have learned, to this new situation where learning can take place. It's a process. Do not feel frustrated if you cannot get them to, or your students to speak in a week or in a month. But it's a constant reminder. Yes, for you and for your students, you have to make it explicit that speaking is not something that we should be afraid of. Yes. But the only way to do it is to do it. Speaking is learned only by speaking. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation. Por ahora nos vamos. Le voy a pasar la siguiente parte a Laris, que va a estar leyendo algunos mensajes y viendo si hay algunas preguntas. Muchas gracias.
Bueno, muchas gracias, Cecilia. Sí, ya estamos terminando justamente este espacio de capacitación. Gracias a todos los docentes que están comentando, allí algunos inclusive compartiendo ideas de por qué no crear algunos videos en el aula que acompañen a los contenidos de los libros. Y es lindo, ¿no?, ver cómo allí los docentes están haciendo preguntas y asimismo también se están respondiendo. Pero Silvina, tenemos algunas consultitas que han dejado allí en el chat. Así que por ahí te pido que nos puedas compartir vos una respuesta, porque claramente son preguntas hechas en inglés, por supuesto. Así que bueno, Silvina, comentanos allí qué es lo que estuvieron preguntando recién los docentes, y también les comentamos que si quieren dejar sus últimos saludos o contarnos desde dónde nos están viendo, por supuesto que lo pueden hacer allí en el chat. También hubo allí algunos docentes que comentaban que se conectaron un poco más tarde. Sepan que esta capacitación quedará guardada en el canal de YouTube Educación Adventista en Sudamérica, donde estamos ahora, y también va a estar publicada en la página web de ACES Educación en el espacio de capacitaciones. Allí en aceseducacion.com tenemos un apartado exclusivo de capacitaciones para docentes, así que también allí estará guardado este video. lo pueden volver a tomar en cualquier momento que necesiten y por qué no compartirlos con otros colegas, otros profesores de inglés que por ahí no estuvieron presentes en esta capacitación. Ahora sí, entonces, Silvina, vamos a dar espacio a las respuestas de las consultas que estuvieron haciendo.
Gracias, Larisa. Una de las consultas está relacionada a cursos de capacitación. Y esto nos anima, ¿no? Porque ya habíamos puesto en el cuestionario de Google que nos interesaba saber capacitación en algún tema en específico que estuvieran necesitando. Lo voy a leer, dice, are you planning to offer a course about working with different English proficiency level in the classroom? Calculo que se está refiriendo a Mixability Classes relacionado específicamente a Language Proficiency. Seguramente, ya que lo han pedido, esto es un desafío para nosotros, estar respondiendo con capacitaciones que sean de su interés propio. Y así como Claudia, que le agradecemos muchísimo, le paso un saludo porque fue mi alumna, dejen temas para que nosotros podamos seguir estudiando y podamos realizar workshops, capacitaciones que sean bien tailored, bien a lo que ustedes estarían necesitando. Otro que nos pareció genial que escribió Sandra fue, is there a possibility for you to create a kind of video series as a companion of the book? Y en realidad mi mente iba tratando de ver de qué forma solucionarlo y dar respuesta. Seguramente es otro desafío para Casa Editora, siempre estamos tratando de responder a las necesidades, pero se me ocurrió algo muy similar a lo que escriben los colegas, ¿no? Esto de la virtualidad nos da la posibilidad de estar sumamente conectados, nos ha acercado un montón como educadores. Está escribiendo un docente de Chile y le contesta un docente de Perú, un docente de Argentina, ¿no? Yo creo que a través también de la plataforma que vamos a tener de iClass, que nos va a nuclear también como docentes, ¿por qué no esta idea de que nosotros como docentes creemos nuestros propios videos, que nuestros alumnos, teniendo en cuenta la capacitación de Ceci, me quiero apropiar de las técnicas y estrategias que dio Ceci para la capacidad de desarrollar speaking, ¿por qué no crear nuestros propios videos? Los chicos hacen uso de la tecnología, son máster realmente. Y esos videos que nosotros creamos con nuestros alumnos, en que ellos pueden tomar el roleplay de alguno de los personajes, o propios, como el caso de las soap operas, ¿por qué no compartirlos? Y así otros docentes usan lo que algún colega hizo, y también es un desafío y una invitación para nuestros propios alumnos de que hagan algo similar, algo diferente, algo en el que todos podamos compartir como una red educativa que somos, como una familia en la educación adventista. Eso es algunas de las preguntas que quedaron. Sí les vamos a pedir, por favor, que si quieren o tienen interés en algunas temáticas especiales, que por favor las escriban en el chat. Lo estoy mirando, creo que son las preguntas que han quedado donde todos los asistentes y participantes les ha gustado mucho la idea de crear los videos. Justamente están hablando, acá Claudia dice, yes, Sandra, as Advantage School, it would be good to contribute to the kind of video bank. También me parece perfecto, porque no solamente de videos, sino poder tener crear nuestro propio banco de resources, ¿no? Así como ustedes seguramente durante la pandemia crearon sus videitos explicativos de clases, sus podcasts. ¿Por qué no empezar, esto es un desafío, ¿por qué no empezar a tener nuestros propios bancos de actividades creadas por nuestros propios docentes, y nos vamos enriqueciendo con distintos cultural issues, ¿no? Nos vamos apropiando, los alumnos se van conociendo de distintos lugares, pueden ir compartiendo. La verdad que han surgido ideas hermosas en el chat a partir de esta capacitación. A nosotros nos están dejando un tremendo desafío, pero les vuelco el desafío a ustedes, porque nosotros estamos desde un rol y ustedes están frente al aula trabajando con nuestros alumnos y pueden crear cosas fantásticas. En la capacitación con Amparo vimos que la docencia no es una profesión, es un arte. Y la verdad que acá está demostrado la creatividad de los docentes. Sé que tenemos muy poquito tiempo. No sé, Larisa, si hay alguna pregunta que me habrá quedado sin responder.
No sé si me escuchan allí.
Sí,
aquí
perfecto.
un profesor estaba consultando por qué otros libros tiene la casa editora para los grados de cuarto y quinto. Me imagino que está consultando por el nivel primario. Tenemos una serie de esto, ¿no, Silvina?
Sí, tenemos la serie My Time, y para quinto, My Time es una serie que va a ir englobando todo el sistema primario, ¿no? Va a llegar hasta My Time 6 para alumnos de 11 años. Por el momento, como la estamos escribiendo, los últimos, en estos momentos estamos escribiendo el 5, pueden utilizar la serie English Plus para los cursos superiores, para chicos de 10 y 11 años.
Perfecto, y
no
también
sé si
preguntan si están consultando para qué cursos específicos son el Knowledge 2 y 3. Creo que se mencionó al principio, pero lo podemos volver a recordar.
Bueno, yo hay algo que siempre hago hincapié y me quedan 4 minutos. Hay algo que hago hincapié. Los libros son una herramienta. Los docentes, los artistas, los creadores y los que conocen al grupo son los docentes. Los libros tienen un target que es el nivel 1 para nivel medio, para comenzar nivel medio, pero varía, o sea, sería para 12 años. Nivel 2 para 13, nivel 3 para 14. Sin embargo, cada uno conoce la realidad y la carga horaria que ha tenido especialmente durante la primaria, porque de eso va a depender cómo adaptarlos. Si perfectamente un nivel 1 se puede adaptar para para alumnos de 12 años o para alumnos de 13 años. Eso va a depender del nivel de proficiencia previo que hayan tenido los alumnos. Y de ahí los libros mantienen una correlación.
Perfecto.
Si no quedan más preguntas por la escasez
nos decía
del
el docente
tiempo,
que estaba preguntando por libros para nivel secundario, cuarto y quinto de inglés, pero como se explicó, tenemos entonces estos 3 primeros que son el 1, el 2 y el 3, 12, 13 y 14 años, pero que son adaptables de acuerdo a la realidad de cada aula, ¿no? Como recién mencionaba Silvina.
Exacto. El 4 se lanza en el 2022. De hecho, estamos trabajando en él. Si no hay más preguntas y me das la posibilidad de dar algunos agradecimientos, Lari.
Claro que sí, ya nos vamos despidiendo.
Porque estamos muy, muy cortitos. En primer lugar, quiero recalcar que hay un handout o booklet, lo pueden descargar debajo de la dirección de la descripción del YouTube. Por otro lado, una gratitud especial a todos nuestros asesores pedagógicos y nuestra asesora de Chile que nos ha estado compartiendo con nosotros por todo el trabajo que ellos hacen, nuestros asesores pedagógicos que representan a cada una de las uniones donde llegan los libros de Casa Editora. Un agradecimiento especial a Cecilia por preparar esta capacitación. It was juicy. Realmente jugosa, productiva. Creo que nos llevamos muchas ideas para comenzar el año con grandes desafíos. También y especialmente a los docentes que siempre nos acompañan y que hacen posible nuestro trabajo. Ellos son los que utilizan el libro, ellos son los que están en contacto con nuestros niños, tienen una misión sublime, que es ser el canal de llevar el mensaje de salvación. Nosotros solamente a través de los libros solamente queremos dejar la herramienta de cómo hacerlo. Muchísimas gracias por todo lo que hicieron durante la pandemia y por todo el desafío que van a enfrentar en el 2021 también con la modalidad. Agradecer a Larisa y a todo el equipo de multimedia que permite las capacitaciones, que nos permite llegar a cada uno de ustedes, a la casa editora, y sobre todas las cosas a Dios por permitirnos ser parte de esta gran red educativa, por poder estar al servicio de nuestros docentes y por trabajar en la misión que el Señor nos ha encomendado a cada uno. Muchísimas gracias.
Bueno, gracias a vos, Silvina. También muchas gracias, Cecilia, por esta oportunidad de conectarte allí. Les comento que cada una de las capacitadoras estaban en diferentes puntos de Argentina, pero bueno, gracias a Internet pudimos preparar este espacio y compartir con ustedes. Así que también gracias a la profesora Cecilia por todo el tiempo y la preparación. Bueno, Ceci, no sé si querés despedirte de los docentes, si no ya voy cerrando yo. Unas palabras ahí finales quizás para compartir.
Tendrías que...
Sí, ya el tiempo se nos va, pero bueno, agradecer por haber estado del otro lado, por haber seguido la transmisión, los mensajes. No tuve tiempo de verlos a todos, voy a tener un ratito después como para seguir en contacto. Vi algunos nombres conocidos ahí de compañeros de estudio, alumnos o exalumnos, así que un placer haber compartido con ustedes y por supuesto muchísimas gracias a ACES y a todas las personas que están detrás, bueno, Silvina como pilar al lado mío para armar esto, y bueno, ha sido un placer, así que espero que lo hayan disfrutado. Gracias.
Bueno, y ahora sí nos despedimos y les recordamos que todo lo que se ha compartido, la información específica y el contenido digital, guías docentes, juegos, audios de los libros Knowledge, lo encuentran en la página aceseducacion.com. Les cuento que es una web que siempre está en constante actualización, así que los invitamos que puedan dar una revisada a esta página web. Busquen allí en la sección de didácticos de nivel secundario, los libros de inglés. Van a ver allí todo el contenido que tienen en forma gratuita y que pueden utilizar tanto en las aulas, en forma presencial, como también en formato online, ¿sí? Es un contenido extra que nosotros brindamos, así que cuentan con esos contenidos digitales allí en la página de aceseducacion.com. Nos despedimos ahora sí, muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos, que Dios los bendiga en este día y será hasta un próximo encuentro.